We want to actually do it live and do it justice. Here's the other reason. I think this is one of those things we want to plow through, we want to kind of look over little bit by little bit, and maybe we'll do like a quick Q&A afterwards regarding what it is we just read. Maybe. I don't know. This live stream should not be nearly as long as, well, other live streams we have done before, but I wanted to make you a part of it anyway. Now then, because no one might be here right now, and it doesn't matter if anyone's even here or not. We just want to do it live for prosperity's sake. So anyway, let's look at what's just broke. But Uber CEO says drivers should get healthcare benefits based on how much they work, and Uber would pay for it. This is a huge deal. This is something that a lot of drivers have been asking for a long time. But why would they be doing this now? Well, I've got some suspicions, I've got some theories, I've got some beliefs, of course. We're going to look through the article. We're going to say exactly how this is going to work. And then I'm going to explain why I think Uber's doing it, because I think there's a couple of reasons why they're doing it specifically. And here's the thing. It's not about you. It's about Uber, as it always is. So anyway, according to CNBC, after years of debate over classifying gig workers as contractors rather than employees, and I think it was wise of them to open the article with that sentence because I think that has everything to do with this, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi outlined his vision for a new way to provide health care benefits for contract workers logging full-time hours. So keep in mind, this is if you're working for Uber full-time. You do this as a part-time thing, a side gig, just make a little extra money on the side, not going to matter. Drivers should earn health care benefits commensurate with the hours they work, he said Friday in an interview on CNBC's Squawk Box. That's an interesting name for a show. It's almost as dumb as the Apptrepreneur. Uber is prepared to create a system to pay for those benefits too, he said. The suggestion comes as Uber and other gig businesses face mounting pressure to provide health care and other protections for their workers, including in the form of a lawsuit from the California Attorney General. The C virus pandemic has magnified the burden and risk gig workers take on by interacting with customers without the financial protections that come with the status of a full employee. Khosrowshahi said that the new model would allow Uber to be a, quote, entry point into earnings for workers where they could choose to secure healthcare benefits by working more hours or forego some of those benefits by working fewer hours. So, again, Uber will only help you if you're doing it full time. Now, granted, I'm not going to complain about this too much. Actually, I'm not going to complain about it at all because there's a thing. That's how it actually works with real work. With real jobs, you have to be working full time. Now, full time is 32 hours, at least in the state of California. However, if you're going to work full-time hours and get full-time benefits, no company will work you under 40 hours consistently. They might let you go home early once in a while, but they're going to make you work the full 40 hours when possible because, hey, they're paying for your benefits. So, in some ways, Uber is just doing what everyone else is doing. Now, I think that's also going to bite them in the long run, and I'll explain why, but I don't begrudge Uber for basically saying, hey, if you work 40 hours on average for us, you get benefits. If you don't, you don't. That makes perfect sense. But again, I think it's going to bite them in the long run. But rather than have a cutoff at 20 hours, for example, Uber would pay for benefits on a sliding scale of hours worked, which that's probably wise of them. Quote, I think this system of if you don't work 40 hours, you're not full-time. If you work 40 hours, you're full-time. And then there's this hard break between the two. That's the old world, Khosrowshahi said. If you're putting in the hours, you should get minimum earnings based on the hours that you're working, and you should get health care based on the hours that you're working. And if you have haves and have-nots based on a particular number of hours worked, that doesn't make sense in a technical forward world. So basically, he's saying, hey, if you're putting something in, you should at the very least get health benefits equivalent to what you're putting in. I actually agree with that. Khosrowshahi said Uber would put money into a fund based on the hours workers put in. That fund would pay into workers' healthcare benefits and minimum earnings. He said Uber is aiming for, quote, generally comparable healthcare to what workers would receive as full-time employees. Quote, what we're looking for essentially is that flexible, on-ramp or off-ramp, he said. You want to work, you get the benefits. You don't want to work, you don't. Well, okay. So here's the thing. Why is Uber doing this? Well, they're doing it for a couple reasons. First of all, they are under a lot of pressure to be providing health benefits. They have been for a long time. But they are especially being pressured because the C virus is going on. There are people who, well, obviously there's a lot of people sick, and you know what? A lot of drivers got the virus because of course you're going to get the virus, or you're more likely to get the virus, I should say. If you do this, you're coming into contact with a ton of people, and by the way, you're spreading it around, so please stop doing this if you are doing this. Can't force you to, of course. You're all adults out there, but please stop doing this. But you are more than likely going to get this virus. Now, Uber decided to, when this began, like, hey, we're going to offer, like, you know, some pay if you're sick. But, you know, that came after some protests when they said, hey, if you're sick, you should not drive. But, of course, if you don't drive, we're not going to pay you. So, But that was their stance. Like, hey, if you get sick, don't take time off. They got criticized. It was like, okay, we'll pay you for 2 weeks if you get sick. And then they extended again, like, hey, we'll pay you a couple weeks if you have to take care of a family member, if you came in contact with someone so you can self-quarantine, you know. They kept moving that line because it's never enough. And truthfully, it never will be. So now Uber is taking the draconian step where it's like, okay, you know what? We're going to create a fund, which, by the way, for Uber passengers out there, keep this in mind, that means an additional fee you're going to be paying for your Uber rides. Your rides are just going to get more and more expensive from this point on, where there are going to be money put into a fund, and hey, if you're full-time, you get to pull from the full-time health benefits. And if you do part-time, well, hey, you got to get your own benefits, but Uber will pay for some of those benefits based on the amount of time that you're putting in. Of course, this actually, in some ways, benefits Uber quite a bit because it encourages you to drive for Uber more and more, which is really what they want to do. Every change they make is designed for you to drive for Uber more. Now, what's going to be interesting about this is the semantics, because it's like, how are they going to necessarily track this? Because here's the thing. You could be online, but you're allowed to deny as many rides as you want, and you can't be deactivated. But what happens if someone like wants to drive really for 5 hours a week, but they keep the app on for 40 hours a week? It's not difficult to do that, by the way, especially now. You know, you have the app on and you just decline ride request after ride request. The app will kick you off for 5 minutes, you get back on, decline ride request. So, you know, how exactly do you measure it? I mean, they're going to say, hey, we were online for 40 hours. And what's Uber going to say at that point? Like, okay, so, but you have to be driving for 40 hours? Well, then that means you are on, even if you do drive full time, you're going to be on the app quite a bit. In fact, here's the interesting thing. Some of the full-time drivers out there who make the couple $1,000s a week, when they share with you their earnings report, pay attention to how long they're actually driving a passenger. It's usually less than 40 hours a week. So if Uber implements this particular requirement to get your health benefits, that's going to screw you. But there's another reason they're doing this. And interestingly, this is where I think it's going to bite them in the butt. Uber is now facing a lawsuit from the California Attorney General and 3 city attorneys in the state. Lyft is also a defendant in the state and alleges that the companies denied workers key privileges by misclassifying them as contractors rather than employees. The lawsuit was filed under California's new law, Assembly Bill 5, that aimed to provide stronger protections for workers, especially in the gig economy. But Uber has consistently fought back against the bill. So here's what's going on with this. Basically, that lawsuit we talked about, where California is suing Uber and Lyft, they're doing this to try to show that they are still allowing the drivers to be independent contractors. Like saying, hey, look, we're not violating AB 5. They are independent contractors. They can get on and off whenever they want. They have these freedoms. But hey, you know what? They can also earn health benefits if they want. And heck, we're even going to do it a step further. If you're part-time and you do this, we will pay for your benefits on a sliding scale. Now, the reason they're doing it is because it shows like, hey, you see, they're already independent contractors, but look, they're getting more benefits than people who are workers. There's some people who work full time that don't get any benefits. So we're actually a step ahead of the curve. And they're hoping the courts will actually see it that way. And they might. They very well might. I have no way of knowing how a judge, a jury, I don't know how they would view a situation like that. And I'm not a lawyer, of course. But I have friends who are lawyers. I have a lawyer myself. You have to when you're doing things like this. And you get used to certain lingo speak, and I watch YouTubers like Viva Ferrari and Ricada Law and that Leonard guy. Reading the Law was Leonard, I think that's what his name is. Yeah, so I've gotten used to how like courts could interpret something, and the weird thing is this could maybe even hurt them in a way, because the courts might look at them and saying, so, okay, you're locking the employees in, like they have to drive 40 hours before they get the health benefits, but you're not paying them minimum wage, and you're not guaranteeing unemployment, and you're still not paying into our, system that takes care of people who have emergencies and stuff like that. So, in some ways, they are acting even more like a W-2 employer, but they're still not actually paying into the system. So, who knows? It might actually make it worse. In the meantime, who knows what this is even going to look like? Because here's the thing, and we know this. Uber is very, very, very slow to enact any change whatsoever. They're very slow to do that. So I'm definitely thinking like this is totally a PR thing. It's a PR thing. It's a way to try to wiggle their way out of the lawsuit. The fact that they're doing this does say one thing to me, though. It says, at the very least, one major thing. The new lawsuit scares the crap out of them. This new lawsuit totally scares the crap out of them. They would not be reacting as strongly as they are. Because here's the thing. They have been sued for this before. They have been sued for similar things before. They've either settled or they've been dismissed. Settling with California, the state of California, is going to be very, very difficult. If they even can settle. If they can settle, it's going to be very expensive. Most likely than not, they won't be able to settle. They will have to make changes that California wants them to make. So they're trying to do what they can to get the case dismissed, to show that you're independent, but look, we're addressing all those concerns that they have. But again, they're addressing them to a point where I have to wonder, will the courts decide that, hey, you know what? You're actually more like a job than most jobs, and you're still not paying into the state system at all. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, and I don't know. Maybe Uber is untouchable. I don't know. I mean, a story that occurred recently. I don't know if I'm going to make a separate video about this or not, because I actually kind of think it's old news. But Uber's quarterly earnings wasn't much of an earnings. It was a loss of almost $3 billion. Now, do you think that's going to hurt the stock? Oh, heck no. Stock went up like $4. Like a drastic jump after losing $3 billion. That's one of their bigger losses in the recent memory. I don't know. People really just seem to like this company. They really seem to be willing to let it get away with murder. So the lawsuit's going to be very interesting, especially when we see how Uber has responded to it and everything like that. But that's ultimately what we're going to end on this one, because, we don't have anything else to go on. Like, Uber has announced they're going to do this. It's very fascinating, but who knows? Now, before I leave, I have been doing this live, so let's see. Did we get any questions through Super Chats? No, we did not. So, anyway, we have 28 people watching. Hey, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That would be really, really appreciative. The thumbs up and the shares really go the farthest in helping the channel, grow and be sustainable. So, thumbs up, shares, comments in the comment section, all of that definitely help. In the meantime, for all of you who are not watching this live, who are watching this in the future, what do you think about any of this? Do you think that this is ultimately a good thing that Uber's doing? Do you think Uber's doing this for altruistic reasons? Or maybe you think you agree with me. Maybe Uber's trying to get out of a lawsuit. Maybe they got their own ulterior motives. What do you think those are? I would love to know. Either way, comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Tune back either later or tomorrow for a different type of video that may or may not necessarily be gig economy related, but will almost certainly piss everyone off. Take care, everyone.